Yeah, kid! Welcome everybody back to another episode of the Handsome Homebuyer Podcast. I am fired up. Big things happening in Handsome Enterprises. I guess the biggest thing is you can see us. We're live, right? Ask and thy shall receive. People have been emailing. They've been texting me saying, yo, listen, we want to see you. We want to see what's going on. Joe Rogan does it. Why can't you do it? Thanks for the inspiration, Joe. So that's what you're doing. And in the spirit of being seen, I have brought to you guys one of the most handsome men in the real estate industry, right? Who you're seeing right now. Actually, don't talk yet because I'm going to shamelessly plug myself for a minute. But I don't know if you know, I had posted a picture of you and I before when we were at coffee. You're like, oh, let's take a picture. Boom. Yeah. And I had girls hitting me up like, that's my second husband. Like married women were like, that's my second husband, right? But back to me for a second.
Too kind.
Big things going on, right? First and foremost, I'm going to announce the 12 and 12. This is more for myself, but I want to have accountability. 12 and 12. What does that mean, 12 and 12? 12 commercial deals under contract in 12 months in 2019. That's the goal. That's what's going to happen. Failure's not an option. So far, January, we got the 8-unit Patchogue Village apartment building deal that we're going to reposition for our veterans. Number 2, we just got a 26,000 square foot commercial corner lot, 24,000 car count, perfect for medical. I'm looking to do a build to suit, or I am looking to do a ground lease of some kind. I'm flexible. I'm creative. Reach out to me, 516-777-SOLD. Let's get creative. Let's make some money. I got a bunch of other deals in the pipe. One massive deal that is literally a week from being signed. That would be 3. But again, the end result and the goal for this year is 12 and 12. All right. On top of that, we got a vlog that we're starting up with my man Matt Rodriguez, who's going to do an amazing job. We're going to bring you the real estate realness all day, every day. There's a lot of guys out there. They're like, yeah, we're going to tell you our secrets. We're going to show you this. We're going to show you that. And they show you 80% of what you need to know. We're going to show you 100% of the time. All right. Speaking of delivering and 100%, you know who's 100%? Captain Permit is 100%. 516-513-8838. If you need permits, if you're in the real estate business, that's commercial, residential, if you're an attorney, whoever you are, if you deal with real estate, you need the Captain. 516-8838. And as always, if you have a house that smells like cat pee, is dated from the 1960s, a piece of commercial property, notes, anything real estate related, I'm easy, I'm low maintenance, I want to buy it. 516-777-SOLD. You're looking at me like I'm a little half nuts here.
I love the energy, man. I love.
You're like, is this guy on, done at 8 in the morning?
I gotta drink coffee for that energy. Lots of it.
All right, so I want to introduce today's guest, right? I met him not too long ago through a mutual friend, Terry Cullen, although we have a few mutual friends. I feel like everybody on Long Island is connected by like one person or another. You don't know this. I have a tremendous amount of respect for you. The first thing I ever heard about you, Terry told me, he's like, he was the pioneer of commercial, of like the next generation on Long Island, and he went at it like pre-crash when everybody was like running to residential, when everybody was like, no. You were the only like you're running into the fire when everybody's running out of it, and then here you are 10 years later, the king of commercial, Michael Murphy, Douglas Elliman.
Maybe I just wasn't too smart back then. 15
I didn't realize the fire burns. I didn't realize. So I like we were talking before offline, like I feel like, we know each other, but we don't know each other very well, but I feel like I know a lot of things about you, even though they're not necessarily confirmed, that we actually just confirmed. So you're a local Long Island guy. I want to get a little bit of the background going. So you're a local Long Island guy. You're cool. Local Long Island guy.
Yep.
Grew up out east, right? Athlete, right? I guess so. You always had kind of like a competitive nature.
Competitive nature. I'm like Al Bundy today.
Yeah?
Old school athlete, but yeah, my wife likes to call me Al Bundy.
How do you?
Because I still talk about it.
Do you?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, guys that are you coach now too. You have a family, kids.
Yep. I love coaching my son. I used to coach him in football, lacrosse, and so forth. So I love coaching.
So former high school varsity football player, went to Post.
Yep.
Home of the Great Lawn.
Home of the Great Lawn.
And during that time, you got into like the nightclub scene, right? Like bartending. What were you doing? Where were you working? Tell me a little bit about it.
So, did my MBA overseas in Switzerland for a year.
Oh, really?
Right. So I went overseas.
What was that like?
International business. Unbelievable. But I had a backpack on my back.
That must have been amazing.
Limited money, no money, backpack, stayed in hostels.
Can I ask you about the girls? were you dating? Were you married? Were you dating?
No,
at the time?
no.
You didn't know her?
I was maybe dating at that time. I don't
okay.
recall, but real good time. Point being, you know what, Handsome, I'd love to go back now and really enjoy and appreciate. But lived in Switzerland, Franklin College, Switzerland.
For a semester?
Year.
Oh, for a whole year.
Went
really?
over for 1 year.
What sparked that?
I was introduced to an accelerated MBA program. I know that I don't have the mindset to go to school for 2.5, 3 years to get an MBA. I wanted to obtain my MBA.
Okay.
And I applied to a program. My grades, needed like a 3.5 or better, community service. I was borderline, maybe not right there.
Okay.
And had a personal interview with the dean of the college, and the interview went great. And it was sold. And
you're his buddy at that point.
I was his buddy, and things went good. It was all blue sky, and so literally 2 weeks after that interview, Charles, I was flying to Switzerland.
Wow.
I went to Switzerland for 1 year.
That's amazing, man.
My wife, not my wife, my girlfriend at that time.
Did she
my
come
parents,
or she...
No. My parents, I just told them leaving. And that
wow.
Was it. Yeah, so it was...
massive action, man.
Massive action.
Is this something you always wanted to do, or you just woke up one day and you're like, where did that come from?
No, it just kind of hit me, and I saw the program. I was intrigued by the program. And I said, that's interesting. And I needed change. I felt like at that time, when you just...
How old are you?
I just graduated college, so maybe 20, early 20s.
I did the same thing. So I graduated Hofstra, and then I freaked out, and then I moved to California during my holy shit, I'm growing up, I need to run away from home phase.
Yeah.
And then I got there and I realized New York's not that bad of a place. I stayed there for 3 months. I'm like, I'm coming home. But I think everybody kind of goes through that. I think the time between people are always like, oh, my 20s were the best. I'm like, I think 30s were freaking awesome. I'm hoping the 40s, you can tell me, are
40s are great.
They're good?
40s are great.
But 21 to 25 is I think a time of extreme inner turmoil. So you're trying to figure out who you are, how you fit into the world. Right. And it's a lot.
Right. Except if you're in the nightclub business.
So how did you say, here's the interest, this is what I want to know about the nightclub business, because this is what I learned, and you tell me if I'm wrong. I know a lot of very successful people who were in the nightclub business. They're not successful in the nightclub business now, they're in different businesses, but they came out of that world. And the social connections and everything, and maybe just the social intelligence that you gain in that experience.
No doubt about it.
Our friend Christian, massively successful. You, massively successful. A lot of people. How do you feel that, A, where did you work? How did you come through that? And how do you feel that has helped you kind of in your life?
So I always say that I love hospitality mindsets, male, female. I love people that have worked in the restaurant, bar, hospitality arena. Because in my opinion, they're the most resourceful people, right? So in the bar restaurant business, you have to socialize. The phone is put aside. You have to face-to-face. You have to look people in the eye. You have to socialize. There's moving parts, a lot of moving parts within the restaurant, bar, nightclub business, right? You have to be coordinated. There's a lot going on, right, in the restaurant business. So, and I think the key is just adapting to multiple personalities, having that ability to adapt to most, and being resourceful, thinking on your toes. So I love, even today if I do an intern or I hire people, I love when I hear that their background consisted of something in the hospitality related industry. So it's great.
That makes sense.
Yeah. So, for me, my partners owned a bunch of bar nightclubs, all the Dublins, Planet Up, down, Planet Dublin, Dublin down, Dublin up. So it was a great, great business.
Truth is, the only thing so far that I really wanted to do in life that I didn't do, or maybe I didn't want to do it bad enough, was bartend. That's one of those things.
It's not too late.
I really wanted to bartend, And just for some reason, I just never, I never went at it.
Well, tell you what. How about a guest bartending spot?
There you go.
How about It's all about promotions. It's all about Who's going to promote better than you?
The good thing is I don't drink, right? Originally, I'm like, listen, here's the perfect thing for me. I want to make a ton of money. I don't drink. Put me in a gay bar, right? Everybody's gonna love me, right? I'm not gonna buy anybody drinks, obviously, because I'm not gay. And I don't drink. I'm gonna kill it. But that didn't happen either. You don't own a gay bar, do you?
I don't own a gay bar.
All right.
I'm sorry.
If you could give me a crash course in bartending, I would definitely do a guest spot.
So here's the crash course. It's 4 deep at the bar. It's a Friday night, Saturday night. Charles, get back. We need you. And you're going to figure out real quick how to make a sex on the beach and a vodka cranberry and all those things. Either not, we're going to, if you don't, we throw you out.
Hey, I'm going to be in and out like that.
Nah, you'll figure it out. But I think a guest bartending spot for Handsome is in order. Absolutely, we're gonna do. I'm gonna arrange it. That's gonna be my call.
All right.
I'm gonna arrange that.
Perfect. I'll study up because I've never really drank. I've never been drunk in my entire life. So like, probably a screwdriver is the extent of my.
You wouldn't have made it in the Dublin world.
Of my bartending bit. No, I'm sure. But I want to do it. If you can make that dream come true, that's one thing to check off the bucket list.
Done.
I would appreciate that.
Done.
So this is what I really want. So you came out of the nightclub business. You went away for a year for MBA. Where does real estate come from?
So I think it was 1998, 99. We had somebody walk into Planet Dublin, a business broker, somebody that wanted to buy our place.
Okay. You owned the place.
I owned the place,
I didn't know
nightclub.
that. Okay.
Yeah, and fast forward 6 months, we actually sold Planet Dublin, which was the biggest location that we owned. And my attorney at the time representing me was a hotel developer, owned a commercial company, and said, Mike, why don't you get involved in real estate? And I really knew nothing other than real basic elementary stuff on real estate. And I had no other, at that point in time, real viable option. So I jumped into real estate.
Wow. How old are you?
Commercial real estate. I was early 20s. Maybe 23, 24, 25.
So how old were you opened up your first bar or restaurant?
Yeah, 20s.
Early, or really early 20s?
Yeah,
wow.
Right out of grad school. I opened my first bar, and then we wound up, my partners and I opened up a chain of different bar restaurants.
Wow.
And then I probably started in real estate actually late 20s, 27, 28.
What did your parents do?
My dad was an executive for Wallbaum's, and my mom, who lives in Florida, is in the insurance business.
I'm just curious to know because I always like to kind of get in the heads of people to. Yeah. I mean, you were extremely entrepreneurial at a very early age, like to basically on your own open a business. Like I owned a body shop franchise called Mako when I was 23, but my father owned a different one, so I had seen that. So for you to go into business and then scale as fast as you did in such a short period of time, I'm kind of curious to know where that came from.
Well, needless to say, after doing my MBA and paying for my MBA and so forth, in which my parents did, they weren't so thrilled to know that I was going into the bar restaurant business, right? And
with all this education, you're going into the bar business?
So I was interviewing religiously on Wall Street. I wanted to be maybe a trader, work on Wall Street. I came very close to a career at a very high-profile, trading firm. And really? I respectfully declined. After 7 interviews, I was accepted to the analyst program.
Wow.
And I respectfully declined because at that time I had just committed, financially and some funds to opening up my first bar venture.
Wow. So, that's because a lot of people, I mean, that's the golden ticket for a lot of people. Like people are bred for that experience.
You know what though? You're young. You're full of piss and vinegar. You're not quite as wise. Hindsight, looking back, it may be one of my biggest regrets. Not working on Wall Street.
Just for the experience.
The experience. I think it would have been an unbelievable experience. The people. The atmosphere. I love that energy, that Wall Street energy.
Yeah.
But look, I probably wouldn't. I wouldn't have met my wife and had my kids and so forth. So I'll take where I'm at now.
So you sell it, and then someone says to you, Someone says to you commercial real estate.
My attorney pushed me into commercial real estate.
You say your late 20s. What year was that?
Late 20s, 99 maybe, 2000.
Oh, so this is pre-dot-com bubble.
Yeah, this is pre-dot-com bubble.
So it's unfortunate that we're getting old enough that we can like remember different cycles.
I had a beeper, by the way, in the nightclubs. I had a beeper. If you needed me, I got the beeper and then I would go call you.
Did you get you have the side beeper, or you had the old school with the top? Remember, all like the cool people had the side beeper with the case that would pull out.
Yeah,
that was your beeper.
Yeah,
yeah. No, I had the other one.
The cool, and I thought I was the coolest thing in the world when I actually got my first car phone. Right, it was as big as your desktop.
Oh, you had a car phone.
When I got really cool,
like one of those ones that you bolt in, that like
with the antenna.
That you see like every once in a while, like so when I was in the auto body business, every once in a while like an '87 Jag would pull in, and they would still have like the car phone bolted into the middle.
Yeah,
I remember that. And then we graduated to like the suitcase phones. Did you have the Zach Morris phone?
No, I didn't have the Zach. I wasn't that cool. No.
That would have been freaking legendary, man.
No, I didn't have that phone.
That would have been legendary.
I wasn't that cool, but anyway, it was.
So 99. What was the climate? So tell me, this is pre-dot-com bubble, and I'm interested to know about this because I haven't been in the game that long, so I like to see how like kind of crashes affect the real estate market. What was the climate of the residential and the commercial market from a brokerage standpoint, from just like a sales standpoint? Were you like the lone young guy, or
so? Charles, it was the most humbling experience in my entire life.
It's hard.
I went from the bar, nightclub industry, things happening all over me, making money, cash, to the commercial real estate industry.
Yeah.
And I literally made no money.
For how long?
For well over a year. I met everybody in the world. I traveled around with, my mentor at the time who owned the commercial firm, and just said, Mike, just keep meeting people. Don't worry about making more money. Worry about meeting people.
But I said, starving here.
John, sooner or later I have to make money here. But it was. And I got to tell you, and I still say it today, there were some real trying times where every 3-4 months I actually considered just a different career path, because it's a very humbling startup, a very humbling business.
I got to stop you there and bring it back, because there's like certain points that you touched on where I'm like, we got to drive this home to people.
Yeah.
I want to know, bring yourself back there, right, for a moment.
Yeah.
Like when you're doing something for a year, you have to like clearly see a year or 2 years or 10 years down the road. Like now again, like I call you the king of commercial. Like how did you envision, in a time where like you had no traction, you weren't making any money, how do you envision like where you are now and where you're going?
Right. So actually a great question. And I remember this vividly. One of the guys in the office, one of the top producers in the office at that time, saw that I was somewhat floundering and getting a little bit discouraged, right? I would be the guy, I was there every morning, 9 a.m., and I was there, the last guy in there, and just hustling, making calls, doing everything, but I wasn't connecting the dots, making money. And he pulled me aside and said, I want you to go to a networking event with me in the morning. I actually want you to meet me for breakfast and then come with me to the event. So I went with him, we pulled in, and he made it a point to show me fancy cars and things. And so he goes, see that guy drives that. And then he made it more of a point to show me the people in the meeting.
Okay.
And the point of the meeting was to show me that they're no better than you. They're just regular guys that have been doing it and continued on that path and do it. So the learning, what I learned from that networking event, Charles, was life-changing, because I actually walked out of there. And if his objective was to get me to say, hey, listen, those guys and girls are no better than me. If they could do it, I could do it. And that was a turning point, because I actually met people that I knew their name. I idolized them just because I felt that they had a lot of listings and they were, icons in the commercial business.
Got it.
And when I met them, I said, wow, he or she's, they're no better than me. If they could do it, I could do it. And so I gave myself, I guess a lifeline for another 6 months or a year to continue on. And so that's what happened. And it was turning points. And I do remember I was like into my second year, and that's when all the mortgage guys were making boatloads of money. Remember the mortgage business?
This was at like what year are we talking about?
Early 2000s.
Okay.
When the mortgage guys, I mean, they were just cranking.
I was like 20.
Yeah.
Not to
these
date
guys,
you, bro. To date you.
I am an old man.
How old are you now?
47.
Yeah, but you look freaking good, bro. Look at full head of hair. Your hairline hasn't moved ever. Right? Ever.
Just a lot of gray.
That's your same height.
Just a lot of gray.
I'll take it.
I got wall wounds. A lot of wall wounds.
Given the alternative,
Yeah.
I'll take it. So no, I don't. But tell me, that's what I'm saying. Like I
so
like to
the
hear about this
mortgage
stuff.
guys, you know, and a lot of my friends making boatloads of money, driving the fancy cars, living, and I'm just struggling. And I actually said there was one deal. It was a marina in Islip, and although it wasn't a monster deal, it was a deal for me that I said, if I close this, I'm going to stay. I'm going to be able to live another couple months, pay bills. And if I don't, I'm going into the mortgage business. That was a real turning point for me.
So was that your first, like, that was your first commercial deal?
Decent deal. It was my first deal. When I say decent, I think it was, you know, a $30,000-$40,000 commission that enabled me to pay bills and breathe and feel like, hey, at that time, at that point of my life, that I made it, right? And so if I didn't and that deal would have went awry, I probably would have wound up in the mortgage business.
See, that's interesting because I feel like every business is kind of like the same, and the mindset of a successful person, regardless of what business you're in, is very similar. So it's like you have to have this super clear vision of like what you're going to do, what it's going to look like. And you have to like believe when everybody else is like, "What are you doing? You have an MBA, you're not making any money," but you're like, "Yo, I'm doing it. Doing it." And then there are dark times, man.
Very dark times.
Like,
absolutely.
People like to see the sexiness of, you know, buying 70 houses a year or, you know, running Douglas Elliman's commercial division, whatever. But what they don't see is like all the years, the struggle, the sleepless nights, the sacrifice that goes into that.
Yeah.
So you closed that deal, and that was, well, I'm just curious, up until that point, like what was like the disconnect for you? Like you had that meeting with the guy, but like what was kind of like you're knocking on doors, but you're not getting traction, but you're pushing?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. In the world of commercial real estate, there's so many moving parts and so much beyond your control, right? Yeah. So what happens in the real estate world is no matter how hard you work, right? I could set up listing appointments and I could secure listings and I could get clients that want to buy or lease. But beyond that, you still, that listing, I have to be able to market it. I have to be able to sell it, right? Yeah. And in that, the time frame is significant. So I list the property today, right? I put it on the market. I expose it, get activity and so forth. I still got to now get the buyer to do the deal. We got to make sure that we have clean title. We got to make sure the environmental's in place, that the financing. So all of those variables and fat in the middle of a deal are beyond your control. Right.
And you know what I'm starting to learn now that I'm doing a lot more commercial stuff is, I mean, the brokers are gung-ho, but like the attorneys move at a glacial pace.
Right.
I'm like, so in the single family world business, I'm used to getting a call today to buy a house in 2 days, to be like back on the market in 8 weeks. I'll negotiate contracts for like 2-3 months.
Absolutely.
I'm ready to like rip whatever hair I have left on the sides out. I'm like, I don't understand what it is. And my attorney's like, just welcome to the game of commercial real estate.
Well, what you learn, Charles, is not everybody is as type A as you and I may be. And that's the problem. We want everybody to be, as type A and as laser focused as we are, but they're not. So, and to your point, there's so much beyond your control in a real estate transaction. So sometimes, look, I believe, and I've learned over the time, that you have to align yourself with whether it's the right attorneys, accountants, title people, expediters, right from the infancy to closing, and people that are accessible so that it just enhances and helps you get to the finish line that much better, right? And people like-minded, because if you just connect the dots and put a deal together and you're waiting on the sidelines for that phone call for it to close.
Yeah, no. It ain't gonna happen. You gotta be pushing. I always tell my staff, I'm like, listen, 95% of our job is making sure everybody else does their job, which is really frustrating, but like that's what it is.
Right.
So again, take me down memory lane. Like, so you do that deal, it's like confirmation, it's like proof of concept.
Yeah.
Like, I can do this.
Yeah.
And then what happens? Like, what's the path?
So, I do that deal. I feel good. I'm fulfilled. I have a little bit of confidence, and now I'm starting to come into my own way, right? Mm-hmm. So I believe in the commercial real estate world, and I tell new agents and people all the time, it's like a big puzzle thrown out on a table, right? And every month a little piece of that puzzle will come together. And I always say, and I'm a big believer in learn and adapt your style to people that you like and that that you admire in the industry. So learn a little bit from this guy and that guy and that guy, and then customize to your own, what suits your needs.
Very smart.
And so from that, I just kind of, I found my own way, and I knew that, I could do the business. I had confirmation, and I just continued to hustle. I door knocked. I remember getting one listing on Jericho Turnpike in Smithtown. Mm-hmm. And that one listing, Charles, all I did was knock on everybody's door to the left, to the right, to the north, to the south, and say, I just listed that property. If you or anybody you know or do business with is interested, you want to call me. And I think a part of it, some of those people were like, man, I even feel bad for this guy. Let me call.
I just want him out of here. Let me give him the listing.
And so, but really, as grassroots as it can be, when I had that one listing, I wasn't letting go, right? Yeah. So the experienced broker might have put it on a database, hope that the phone rings a little bit, and because they have a lot of, a lot of other things that have taken precedence or priority over. But for me, that one listing was everything. So I really started my business on Jericho Turnpike and that Smithtown, Huntington, that whole corridor. When I got that one listing, I door knocked, I cold called. And then what happened is I got like collateral business. All of a sudden people would call and say, hey, Mike, I'm calling you on that listing.
Wow.
And maybe that listing didn't work, so I took them to another building. And then what happened is people started to say, hey, Mike, I saw you listed that property. Come give me an evaluation on my property, right? Yeah. So then, like anything else in any business, as you evolve and you get experience, I started to get some listings, and I started to get some traction, and all of a sudden I had 2 signs, and then 3 signs, and then all of a sudden I felt like things were moving in the right direction for a change.
So there's awesome. So you ever heard of Seth Godin? He's an author.
Yep, sure.
So was it The Purple Cow?
Yeah.
So he says his big thing that I took from him was he says it takes 10,000 hours to be the best at something, right? And that there's no shortage of talent or amazing people in the world. The difference is people stop just shy of that 10,000 hour mark. So it's like you push, you get no traction, and all of a sudden one day you're like,
yeah, absolutely.
You're taking huge commercial listings. At this point, not to jump forward and come back, you represent municipalities.
Right.
You represent, I know, the village of Freeport. You represent Brookhaven? I've
done a lot of work with Brookhaven. I did the U.S. Rail deal many years, 10 years back with the Brookhaven, where we sold and assembled 66 acres for Brookhaven. Did a lot of work with the town of Islip. I sold to the town of Islip. Yeah, so we've done a lot of work with
That's what I'm saying. That's love. So, anybody out there, it's it all starts with, we're all kids growing up on Long Island. Anything's basically achievable.
Yeah.
If you have the dream. So were you with Elliman during that time?
So I was with Elliman during that time. So I was with my first firm for about 2 years, and then I went off and opened my own firm. Once I started getting a little confidence and so forth. Very boutique firm. Another gentleman, the top producer at the firm that I was with, and I left and went off and opened our own firm, Global Commercial Realty.
Okay.
And this is just prior to 2001, right? And, we were chopping away, doing okay, not making boatloads of money, but making some headway and making a living. And fortunately, I had, the opportunity to meet Dottie Herman, who at the time owned Prudential Long Island Realty. We weren't even Douglas Elliman. And we were 16, 17 offices, residential office. And, she was just, wow. When you meet her and her energy and so forth. And I had met with her, very informal, casual conversation. And I continued some conversations with Dottie at that time, prior to September 11th.
And this is prior to that. How old are you at the time? 30?
Yeah, probably around 30.
And then September 11th happened. The .com bubble burst. What happened in commercial real estate? What happened in like the overall market?
Yeah, so I had joined Elliman right after September 11th, literally after September 11th, and the world was in a freeze. The banks weren't lending, it was doom and gloom. Doors were closed,
It was that bad.
It was very, very tough. There was no credit. You couldn't get money. You couldn't get financing.
Which is always the problem in every recession. How long did how long did that last for? Do you remember?
I would say for a good 16 months, 2 years, it was really, really trying. It was challenging, and the process in which you did a deal. So, if a typical deal is 90 to 120 days, it was twice as long. Right, there was just the banks were just dissecting every deal, every file. The environmental companies were doing the same. So the process was just really daunting, and it was a very, very difficult time. Probably one of the reasons today our business still remains very boutique in comparison to residential. I mean, there's probably no more than 300 commercial brokers in all of Long Island.
You know what I've noticed is, again, now being in the very different animal. The commercial real estate business and the commercial broker is very different than the residential business and the residential broker. Not, better or worse, just very, very different. I see like stuff in the commercial world, smaller group of people. There's a certain level of like real, like hardcore education you need to know, because commercial is like residential is all emotional.
Right.
You're showing somebody a house or you're selling a house. Someone comes in, I want to live here. It's all emotional. Commercial is really all about hard numbers and understanding the market as it relates to, and it's complicated. Cap rates, price per square foot for rentals. Is it triple net? Is it modified gross? What is it? Like, it's hard for you guys. It requires a lot of education.
No, absolutely. It's actually a great point. So a distinct difference is, from a residential standpoint, there's probably north of 30,000 practicing residential agents. In comparison to commercial, where there's 200 to 300, right?
I didn't realize it was that small.
Yeah, very, very boutique, and it's very specialized.
Well, let me ask you this too: out of the 200 to 300, like out of the 30,000 residential, only half of them haven't done a deal at all.
Sure.
And then 5% of them do 95% of the business.
Right.
Is it like that in commercial?
Similar, yeah.
Yeah.
Very, very similar, and it is a very specialized business, meaning agents focus and laser focus on a specific property type, whether it be office leasing or the industrial sector, or investment properties. And then you have agents that'll focus on 2 or 3 property types, or in a demographic they become strong. But it's a very specialized business, and keep in mind, unlike residential, you're dealing with multiple property types: office, industrial, retail, land, multifamily, senior living, and so forth. So there's in each of those property types, there's so many variables that come into play, which you need to understand and learn if you're going to practice the business. And then you deal with local municipalities that have zoning. So it's a whole, the learning curve is significantly different.
It's a lot.
And so the startup, hence the reason it's very humbling, right?
And you got to be all in.
You got to be all in.
So let me ask you this: when you first started getting traction doing deals, did you focus on? I mean, I know now you do everything, but did you focus on a certain like asset class or niche of the market, certain area of Long Island, or were you were everywhere?
So that's a great question. I actually started on like Jericho Turnpike in Smithtown, close proximity to the area that I know, and I felt comfortable to have an intelligent conversation with anybody. And so I naturally just kind of fell into that retail office sector, because that was middle market Jericho Turnpike.
Okay.
And I was starting to list a lot of properties that were retail related or office related. So I developed just a strong niche in that middle market sector of a Sunrise Highway, Jericho Turnpike, retail office.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, and then what happens is when you're doing and you're dealing with business-oriented people and handling their assets and real estate and so forth, naturally other asset classes fall into play. An industrial property or a shopping center and so forth. So you're forced to learn.
And you become more comfortable, or I should say you become comfortable with being uncomfortable, and you start to, expand.
Absolutely.
So no, that makes sense. Because I think a lot of people they're like, do I have to understand everything? I think people just need to understand that, figure something out, do it, and then by that process of being out there and talking to people and doing business, you'll naturally expand.
Sink or swim.
So the market starts recovering post 9/11, and now I'm sure you had a crazy run for the next 5-6 years until obviously 2007, 2008. And then what was the climate like? Again, at that point, are you in the position with Douglas Elliman that you are now, or you're selling and brokering? What are you doing?
So I was really the lone man. I think there was 2 agents, myself, and I recruited 1 or 2 agents. I mean, nobody wanted to be in the world of commercial.
So that's the start. So you're with Dottie. You guys put it together, and now you're the guy.
Off and running, and I'm the guy.
By yourself?
By myself.
What? How many agents do you have today under you?
Today in our Huntington office we have 21, and then I have a commercial arm in Great Neck, which we have 9, and then I have coordinators. So I have 31 specialized commercial coordinators that are positioned. We have 60 plus strategically located residential offices.
Yeah.
So I have a coordinator in most of those offices that are like a commercial liaison, if you will, that help facilitate and funnel business out of the offices. So,
out of the residential.
Yep.
That makes sense. I mean, so you guys have. I mean, you've built in the last 10 years a huge footprint. You own a big chunk of that commercial world.
Right.
It's from a brokerage standpoint.
Right.
So 2008 comes, the world comes to an end. What happens in commercial real estate? You must have been like, I mean, I was in business in the body shop, and I remember yesterday. I remember where exactly I was when the planes hit the towers, right? But I remember the day, it was October. I remember the day the world stopped.
Yeah.
We were painting cars. We were painting 30, 40 cars a week. It was pandemonium. This is sick. Yeah. And then all of a sudden, it was like somebody shut the faucet off.
That's exactly right.
Nobody was around. It was like a ghost town.
Yeah.
It was. So what happened in commercial real estate?
So, obviously it for many and some very smart people I've learned a lot from over the years, it became what I would call an opportunistic market.
Yeah.
Same thing with the stock market, right? So the smart people that were on the sidelines
that had
money, obviously it became a real opportunistic market, and they were buying, and acquiring assets all over the country. I mean, you saw Miami, with all the high-rise condos, they were buying these, for pennies on the dollar.
Yeah.
And in the boroughs and so forth. So for many, it became an opportunistic market. Obviously, for most, it was the end. A lot of the industrial sector was dismantled,
which is crazy given what's going on today.
Which is crazy, right? Because it's one of the hottest sectors. But for example, in commercial, there's always somewhat of a residual type business component, right?
Okay.
If you're resourceful enough to kind of work and see through it, like in the industrial sector where everything was getting outsourced overseas. So now you own a 50,000 square foot building. The economy shifts. All of a sudden you say, you know what, my business doesn't warrant 50,000 square feet. I don't need it. Let me consolidate into 20,000 and I'll lease out 30. So it became opportunities for brokers that recognized it, and just went out and hustled and went after the business.
So there was a million, everybody and their mother was a residential realtor at that time.
Yeah.
And then everybody jumped ship because they couldn't make any money.
Right.
Did that same thing happen in the commercial world? Did you get a lot of people that, a lot of brokers jump ship or agents jumped ship at that time? Or did most people just hunker down and stick with it?
Great question. So in general, I think the turnover is tremendous in commercial real estate, just in general. Most people don't get to that hump we spoke about earlier, that first year and a half hump. They don't get over that. But the seasoned brokers all hunkered down and found a way to adapt to the climate.
Yeah.
The seasoned brokers that were there continued to be there. They're still there today. Certainly, you had a lot of people fizzle out of the business.
Yeah.
But it was it was a trying time, and I think it in many ways changed the way we do business. It forced you to change the way we do business today in many ways.
Yeah.
But and I'm grateful for that time, because I really do believe that experiencing that just grinding, tough, time can get you through anything. If you could get through that, and I say it to myself now when I wake up and I know that I got a lot of things against me or whatever, I say, if I can get through that, then I can get through anything. And that's in any business, I think, right?
The interesting thing is, like, I guess it all depends on what your why is, right? So, like, I kind of like, not that I long for those times, but I like those times because when I'm in that moment, I kind of like sit there and I'm like, this is what it is. Like, this is the challenge for me. This is like, now I got to see what I'm made of. Because once you get to a certain point, it's nice to know, success is good in the sense that it's nice to know you're not going to starve, right? But after that, it can't be all about fancy cars and bottle service and girls and vacations. Right. What's the why? What makes you tick? What makes you get up every morning pumped up to come in here with me at 7:30 in the morning and yell and scream on a microphone? So I want to talk about your staff, your agents, right, that work underneath you. I know a lot of them. I'm blessed to know a lot of them. They're amazing. The Chris Pesci's of the world. I had an hour and a half conversation with him yesterday. He's fired up on the phone. Yeah. Steve Bestman, the Ben and DeViglias of the world. I mean, these guys are great. Top talent is a very hard thing to get, especially on Long Island, where I feel like younger people are leaving. Yeah. The two things I want to know about, how do you recruit some of the best agents on Long Island? And then how do you continuously motivate these people to be top producers? Because, I mean, you're crushing it.
Yeah. I tell you, I am extremely proud of our group and guys like Chris and Ben and Steve. I mean, just genuinely a good group of guys, right? And girls in our office. But you know what, Charles, as I've progressed in my career, one thing I've said is, I'm going to do business with people that I genuinely like and could befriend, because there's enough people out there that I just don't want to do business with, right? It's a crazy, crazy world. But so I think my mentality when running the office is I want those same like-minded people. Yeah. Traditionally in the commercial world, it's a very cutthroat type industry, whereas this is my cube, these are my leads, this is my business, and I don't have any of that. I am really a big believer, and we work as a team, we work on projects as a team. I'm a big believer that you have strengths, which may be what my weakness is, and vice versa. If you ever looked at our inventory, I have 2-3 agents on a listing, and we all share in the pie, because look, everybody brings something different to the table. I just don't allow that mentality, that top producer mentality, that they're not going to share or work or help other agents in the office. I mean, I have, a great group of agents, guys like Dennis Ganley in my office that'll help and work with new agents, you know what I mean? Lou Fisher, and just a good group of people, like, for example, Chris Pesci. I mean, I commend him on his social media and his vlog.
I love it, man.
I love
That's
it.
how I met him. You know what? He reminded me yesterday. He's like, we've never met each other, and I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, I know this guy. I know what he looks like. I actually he was playing guitar, and I was like, I hit him up on Instagram because he's playing guitar. I'm like, I feel like this guy's serenading me, like he's singing to me here. And him and I have a great relationship.
Amazing.
Based off of that. It's nuts.
But it's so funny. You could learn so much about somebody just seeing a different side of them, right? Yeah. And so he, Chris is a talented guy, and I'm like, wow, look at this guy. He's a musician. He's this, he's that. But so, even in our office meeting, I said, Chris, I'm like Primitive Pete, man. You got to help me with the social media. And Chris is like, all right, Mike, this is what we got to do. I'll help you, and we'll figure it out, And he's not the type of guy, well, I can't show you, and this, But so that's the mentality.
No, it's very funny. It's actually, when people try to keep stuff close to the vest, I think that's counterproductive, and you do less business. Real quick story about Pesci. So Pesci's the man. I call him up. I literally hit him up. I saw that, and I'm like, listen, this is what we're going to do. He doesn't know me. I'm like, this is what we're going to do, man. I'm like, that new Lady Gaga movie? I'm going to put a wig on and a dress, and I'm going to sing it, and you're going to be the good-looking guy, whatever his name is, with the guitar in the background, and we're going to put this on YouTube and everything. And he's like,
Yeah. Who is this guy?
Who are you?
Yeah, I love it.
Who
I
are
love
you?
it. Yeah.
So we didn't get to do that, but he's just like, who is this freaking maniac?
And approachable, like you. Very approachable.
Very cool guy.
Absolutely.
Awesome guy. I mean, I know he just did that big deal on Merrick Road and Wanter Avenue. He was super psyched about. So I'm really proud of him. He's doing his thing. I want to get your feeling. If you had the crystal ball, right? You're a guy that's out there. You have a tremendous amount of experience. You've seen cycles. Like, you've seen 2 cycles at this point.
Right.
Right? At a very young age.
Yep.
Where do you see the economy and the market going?
Well, look, I mean, today, in my opinion, I think the economy, anytime you look at the real estate market and the banks are lending money and it's moving and there's credit out there, right? Banks are lending money. The stock market's through the roof. So today it's there's a lot of optimism, right?
Yeah.
I certainly am realistic to know that things will change. Maybe you'll get a spike in interest rates. Maybe, maybe something can happen that will set things back. But the reality is, I think that we've become a very resilient marketplace, especially, our surrounding area of the boroughs, Long Island, right?
Yeah.
We found a way to be very resilient. And one thing that I really love that's happening on Long Island is we're becoming, in certain towns, much more pro-business.
Yeah.
Right? Which we're forced to be. So I'll give you an example. Patchogue, right?
That guy's the man.
I mean, the man, the absolute. So Patchogue, look back, many years, there were a lot of vacancies and dark stores, and the town was really a mixed bag, right?
Yeah.
And now you take Patchogue, and it's like urban living 101. I mean, you have live, work, restaurant row.
It's amazing.
And it all starts with leadership, right? You have a very business-friendly mayor in Paul Pontieri that promotes business, that helps local businesses. It's tough and hard enough out there for small business, right? With all the obstacles and adversities and tax ramifications and consequences to make it today, right? So the last thing we need is more government, right, with red tape. So I love to see, the small towns like Patchogue evolve, which Bayshore has seemed to follow suit.
Yeah.
Farmingdale. I mean, we sold a business, the meatball place, Patchogue. We sold them a building in
place.
Farmingdale, right? So I love to see, Lindenhurst, Farmingdale, these towns continue to follow suit. So what you're going to see, in my humble opinion, is a lot of the big box stuff maybe change and reinvent themselves and come out with a different model. Obviously, some of these boxes on Long Island can't afford the occupancy cost. I mean, between your taxes, your CAM, and your base rentals, the numbers are tremendous. But I think that we'll adapt. I think that we'll evolve, and I think that we'll be forced to follow suit of Paul Pontieri and hope that somebody like that can really, really be more vocal in other townships, or even advise and and help
I think people just in general, especially residents, like, have to be open-minded. The unfortunate reality is, like, people as a whole don't really like change,
right?
But the world is changing today faster than it ever has.
No doubt about it.
At 39 years old, I see it. Even just the last few years alone, things are changing so fast.
Yeah.
And either you're growing and you're changing, or you're dying. And Long Island has a lot of problems related to the fact that people want to keep the house white picket fence, and it's not the trend anymore. It's not what young people want.
Exactly right.
You have to be willing to give a little and find a middle ground. You can't just come out at a hearing and start screaming that you don't want apartments downtown next to the train for I don't even know what reason, just because you feel like, you got no fight with your wife and you feel like yelling at somebody.
Silly.
You can't be her.
No, it's silly. Absolutely.
So, I want to close out with 2 questions for you. Where do you see, I mean, again, I commend you for what you've done and how you've grown the commercial division over a short period of time.
Thank you.
Where is it going in the next 5-10 years, and where do you see yourself going in the next 5 to 10 years within the industry and everything?
I want to continue to grow and evolve our commercial division with good people, You know, I always say, and my agents will laugh if they hear this, but bigger isn't better, better is better. Yeah. So I always love like-minded people, you know.
That needs a t-shirt. You need Douglas Elliman shirts, commercial that say that.
We'll get them. But so I want to, I love the business. I love what I do. And I do believe that, you know, the agents in there with me in the trenches, they love what they do as well. I mean, to do what we do, Charles, you have to love it, right? So, and I just want to continue to grow. I'm an operationals guy. I like systems. I would love to, you know, COO, CEO of, you know, something much bigger than what we currently have, but I'm going to get it there. I'm going to grow it. And, you know,
and that's the mindset that it takes.
Yes, keep going.
Listen, you're the man. It's always a pleasure. If there are agents that are looking to get into commercial, or if they're at another commercial brokerage and they want a fresh start with someone that's young, open-minded, creative, you know, how do people get in touch with you? How do they follow you on social media?
Absolutely. So I'm a very accessible guy. You know, you know, my office 631-858-2460. Email michael.murphy@element.com. If you want to send me a personal email, coach, COACH, Murph, MURF, the number 34 @gmail.com. But a very accessible guy, easy guy to find. I'm always out.
I can attest to that. I appreciate you coming down, man. As always, I am half handsome home buyer, half Captain Permit. If you have a house or a piece of land or anything real estate, I want to buy it. 516-777 sold. If you have permit problems, call the staff. The guys are here to take care of you. We have 4 guys running around, including my crazy dad, who's always entertaining, I guarantee. 516-513-8838. That's a wrap.